Hello.
Lauren, my old friend.
Hey. Long
So
time no talk.
it's been I can't even remember how long it's been. But now you've been keeping your fans out there. They've been talking about you. They want to hear where you're at now, and shit's changed. Have you changed or no? Tell me what's going on. Where you're at with Delphi.
Well,
No, yes,
I
maybe.
just
Hmm?
yeah, I think I've changed just a little bit on how I feel about some things. I kind of took a step back, and that always just seems to bring such great clarity. If you stop looking at something for a while, suddenly maybe you can actually see it. So, we still don't know anything for sure, but I was just listening to the murder sheets actually not too long ago today, and I know I've given them guys a hard time, but they're starting to make some sense. They're starting to make some sense. So to me,
Well, it's like whenever you're looking at something with a microscope, it looks different than whenever you're looking at it with clear eyes. But I'm not saying that I agree with them, their direction, but it kind of makes sense sometimes because, there's a lot of, if you watch what LE's doing.
what are they doing? What is law enforcement doing? Anything new? I've been trying to catch up a little bit, but I've been out of the loop. I've caught a few things. I know that Karina McClurkin, someone's in jail for her murder, so that was really exciting because that case was something that really touched my heart to see her grandmother just fight tirelessly the way she did. And I know that some people have made that connection to Delphi between her and Delphi, but that's never been confirmed, and it's actually been denied, I think, by the mainstream a little bit. But that was exciting to think, because that was 6 years ago, so that was before Delphi. So that gives kind of a little bit of hope that, yeah, it's been 5 years, but a case was just solved, essentially.
What?
Good.
Now, that's another local case. I don't, and of course I was kind of teasing with the other things because there's really nothing, like you said, you're like, well, what have they done? Nothing. But now, this other case, though, you mentioned, a 6-year-old case, a little bit other than Delphi, same area, there was some teasing back and forth, but tell me, let's dig a little bit deeper with it, and deeper as in what people were saying, there's connections and all that kind of stuff. What can you say about that?
Okay. So Karina McClurkin, she disappeared, about 6 years ago. She was 18 when she disappeared, and she was from Kokomo, which, there was the Garrett Curse, Kokomo Crew connection, Gabe Ellis, some of the familiar cast of characters out of Kokomo. Their names were overlapping a bit in the Karina McClurkin investigation, and then also they overlapped into Delphi a little bit. Not that any solid, confirmation has ever come from law enforcement or anything like that as far as anyone's involvement, period. So it's just a lot of speculation and people drawing commonalities. But, I think we all need to remember that these are super small towns. And people in those kind of circles, like the mess circle and the gang type idea, they're all going to overlap because there's just not that many of them. 10 people, 10 names? Of course you're going to see some of them in Delphi and Kokomo. It's only like 30 minutes away from each other. So, but Karina McClurkin, so she disappeared, and it doesn't seem like it was taken very seriously by the local law enforcement, the Kokomo Police Department. It seems like maybe she had some issues with substance abuse, and they just, they didn't want to take it seriously, like we see so often. We saw it with the Bradley Wayne Allen thing. And it's just so unfortunate because at 18 years old, she had just turned 18. You know, she's still practically a child too. And yet her grandmother was the only one out there championing for her, like rooting for her, fighting for her, physically looking for her. It's her grandmother, Jerry, said that the Kokomo police had told her early on that they knew who had killed Karina, but that Jerry and her son, so Karina's father, should find them a body so they can prosecute this person who's in jail right now. And I just thought, how can you tell a family member that they need to be out digging for their child? It's just sickening.
Okay, so let's talk about this part. I'm glad you mentioned Bradley Wayne Allen, because the story you were telling me sounds like that. But what has been released about this Pert, the guy that's been recently arrested? What do we know about him?
All right, so his name is Vincent Farmer. No, I'm sorry, Flint Vincent Farmer. Let me clarify that. The person who's in jail is Flint Vincent Farmer. He has a son named Vincent Farmer, so I want to make sure that I'm clarify that, because that did cause some confusion and probably kind of a bad day for the son initially, because I think people were getting him mixed up. Anyway, he's, I believe, like 54 years old. He has, you know, some criminal history, nothing major until now, but he was arrested, I want to say it's been about 3 weeks ago, maybe. And when the Kokomo police did their press release about it, they specifically told people to shut up on social media about it, that it wasn't helping. I mean, they didn't say shut up, but you know what I mean. They were like, stay off of social media. You've hindered this investigation, you know, from the get-go. And I'm certain that they felt that way because they said that because they don't like the negative press about themselves. They don't want to hear that they screwed this investigation up. You know, they don't want to hear that there might be a race element because Karina was biracial. They don't want that out in the public. So when they finally catch the guy, they're patting each other on the back like, oh, they did all the work, when in fact it was the public and Jerry, the grandmother, and James, the father, who got the arrest to happen. It's just kind of frustrating about that. But the person who's in jail, the alleged murderer, when he was arrested, they said expect more arrests to follow. And so far we haven't seen that. But I did watch True Crime Web, Steve, and he was talking about, you know, how that's just so foolish to say that, because anyone who was possibly involved or really doing any type of criminal activity that would have caused overlapping of their life into Karina's life at that time, they're going to start thinking back like, oh, what evidence do they have on me? You know, what can I get rid of? I need to be on my toes and watch my P's and Q's. And I thought that made a lot of sense, what Steve said, that it just seems, why would you warn everyone who might be potentially involved that you're coming for them in the imminent future? I don't know. It just seems like a surefire way to get evidence destroyed, which they didn't even test the garage where Flint Farmer lived until just a few weeks ago, but they were aware that there might be Karina's blood in it back in 2018? Something like that. And I mean, don't quote me on all of that, but
okay,
roughly 2018.
Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, just when you read there's a probable cause affidavit for it. When you read that, you can tell that almost all of the evidence that they needed to make that arrest, they had within the first year of the investigation, and that without pressure from the public, it seemed like it would never come to an arrest. So I think that that's a really good motivator for the true crime community to know that, you know, we helped. You guys helped. And don't listen to what people say that social media and YouTubers can't be influential in this kind of stuff, because I do truly believe that that has something to do with it.
Well, just because, you know, that I'm traditionally a squirrel and go in different directions.
Yeah,
so, and we're going to tie this. I want this to run concurrent, because I don't know how related that is to Delphi. But in Murder Sheet, and you were mentioning some things there, and I was like, ooh, that brings up, you know, you're talking about law enforcement and various things that go on, and all the complexities of dealing with what law enforcement releases and what these YouTubers release. And there, in that recent Murder Sheet episode, they were talking about a helicopter flight that Doug Carter took. Did you hear that episode or no?
Yes, I just was listening to it just now, right before you called, actually, trying to catch up a little bit. I believe that was when they had the 1 year. Was that? Do you remember? Was that when he flew to the 1 year press conference that they had at the trail entrance? It would have been in 2018. I think that's the one, because I do remember him mentioning at the beginning that he said when we flew over here and we got ready to land. So I knew that he had taken a helicopter to that press conference. I assumed it's the same one.
You missed the two at 2018 there too, because that was about the same kind of a time frame. There's a lot of shit going on right then, and the murders were a year or two before that. You know, so there's a lot of shit going on back then. You know, why did he make that little swerve? What was the point of them talking about there was the stop and turn around of the helicopter? Did you get the point of that? Did you figure out what they were talking about?
I think, and I could be wrong, I think what he was saying was he wanted to look at, when they were flying overhead of Gary, Indiana, he wanted to turn around and look at it again because he couldn't believe what he was seeing. And the reason is Gary used to be an industrial steel mining town, and it was just, you know, disgusting, just like almost a ghost town. The highest crime rate probably in the Midwest, honestly, and just desolate, dead looking. And I think what he was saying was he couldn't believe that there were green spaces again in Gary. And I believe the point he was trying to make was that he couldn't really believe that despite all the terrible things that had happened in that past year and a few years prior, there was beauty still if you looked for it. So, I don't know, just my take on it.
Well, and there is, and there's beauty right now because we may have an unsolved case from circa 2016, 2017 getting solved. But there seems to be this weird scenario where a couple of years after it, they're doing something different. I don't understand that. I'm trying to figure out with both these cases. There was this weird stuff that occurred a year, maybe real close to the event, the actual murder, the kidnapping, whatever it is, and then something happens, and then it changes course, and then it's solved later. I mean, we could be so lucky with Delphi, maybe, but I mean, anyway, I want to squirrel again, because going back to this Kagan thing, whatever his fucking name is, you know, it's saying that, you know, there was the change in the court proceedings has been moved back again. What are you reading from that? Is it who even knows if it's been tied to Delphi? Maybe it is, maybe it's not, but perhaps it is, what would that mean?
Well, I would say, first of all, I believe by law, according to the trial law, a person is entitled to at least 2, if not 3 continuances. Just they ask for them on any grounds, such as needing their lawyers needing more time to prepare, or they need additional time to explore their legal options. And now it's my understanding Keegan, whatever his name is, the pedophile piece of shit that's right where he needs to be, we'll just call him that. He has already had like 5 continuances. So the longer something goes on like that, usually I believe, from what I've seen, the more lenient the sentence upon its conclusion. So I don't think that they have that strong of a case against him on all these counts. They say they're not offering him a deal, and he says he's not, going to plead guilty to all of it. So I think there's just stonewalling. And, I mean, the prosecution isn't objecting to all of these continuances, which under normal circumstances, if they had a strong case and they had everything they needed from him, they would say, screw it, let's go to trial then. They would likely object to the continuance.
Exactly.
What's
and
that?
To point that out, they in the interviews that we had access to via the murder sheet, they were more interested in other people saying, well, you didn't do this other stuff. And they almost gave him excuses as to why he was doing things. So, yeah, I could see what you're saying with that. Maybe the case is not as strong as we thought it was. I mean, I hope he gets what he gets. Don't get me wrong. If he's a pedophile, he's trying to get illicit photos from young girls. Yeah, he's exactly where he needs to be. But I don't know. I mean, it's just so complex.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I should say all people are innocent until proven guilty, however that goes. But he's admitted to most of this stuff, in the transcripts, that they made it very clear in that interview. Now, of course, we've been over this before. The police can lie to you. The police can say whatever they need to say to you. Their means, or the end justifies the means for them. So they're allowed to lie to you. They're allowed to say they have evidence that they don't have. They're allowed to say that somebody's going to inform on you while they're telling that person that the same thing, turn people against each other. They can essentially use any type of deception that they need to get their result, which would be him flipping. I truly believe, based on what they said, that they think that it's 2 different people talking. They think that, his father had something to do with it. I don't think that they were lying there, but I think that they were trying to give him a false sense of security. Like, we don't want you, we want your dad. Just tell us what your dad did, and everything will be fine, and we'll let you go. And I don't think it's working out how they thought it would.
So who killed Abby and Libby?
So who killed Abby and Libby? Neither of them. I don't think either one of them had anything to do with it. But, I don't know. They are connected. They know, I think they know maybe who did it, or they have an idea, or they are the plug, the connection to the person who did it. So there's been a lot of talk that Kagan was setting up he was doing the grooming. He was setting up these catfish accounts. He was, luring the girls into sending the photos. He was like warming them up essentially to pass them off onto someone else for a fee. And so he could accumulate, these Dropbox file sharing packets, and maybe someone would pay him to take over that fake profile. Like, you know, I got it set up. I got you the followers. I got you the friends. Now you give me some money, and I'll give you the password to this account, and then you can take over the act. Maybe it was something like that. Maybe, I don't know. I've often thought that Tony Klein is not, it's possible that they're doing a sting. Maybe they tried to lure Bridge Guy out. I mean, we could go totally deep with conspiracies, but the fact of the matter is the stuff all makes sense and it has precedent. It's been done before. And I believe it was 2007 or 2012, there was a social networking interface that was like the Facebook of CSAM. You know, it was the social networking site for CSAM. And they somehow infiltrated this large syndicate. The police did, or the FBI did. They infiltrated this large CSAM crime syndicate, and they inserted one of their agents to take over the kingpin guy, I don't remember his name, to take over his online persona, and they used it to lure out, you know, their higher value target. So why are we not thinking that might be a possibility with the Kleins? I don't know.
Well, you know, we in our back channel discussions, we've all talked about Tor or, you know, the dark web type stuff, you know, and maybe that's what that is. And all of these, they're obviously not operating, you know, where most of us live. They're operating somewhere back there. And I often wonder about that about Bridge Guy, if that's who he is. You know, there seems to be three major theories. It's like this, you know, Klein, you know, dark web type thing. There's things associated with family, and I have pursued that foxhole, and I just think that in that 43-second video that they would announce that, or however long the video is. I don't know. I'm curious about that one. But the other part is just somebody that may have been either just you know, a show up, or someone that is not as deep in the dark web. You know, maybe these guys, maybe they aren't operating that level. I'm talking about Kagan Klein and his father. Maybe, you know, maybe they talked about this Las Vegas or wherever they went to angle. I don't know. I don't get. The thing that really confuses me is that we, you know, I just don't fucking get it. I just don't get how. There's so many. I feel like there should be more out there. I feel like law enforcement should put more out there. This amount of time has passed. I feel like they should put more out there for it to make sense. You know, I mean, this is a long fucking time. Let's just, this other case you were talking about, how much information have they released on it? Or you want to go another direction? But that's a good angle.
They haven't. I'm sorry.
You're the boss lady. Go ahead.
I apologize. No, I was just going to say, I think that, you know, they really do need to release more information. And I have always, and you know this, I have always been Team Doug Carter. Law enforcement knows what they're doing. Trust them. They have a plan, etc. But I got to say, I don't think, I'm not going to be in their front row cheerleading for them anymore, because I'm beginning to wonder with the Karina McClurkin case, you know, it being pretty much proven, not beyond a reasonable doubt, but definitely with a preponderance of evidence, that there was some ineptitude in law enforcement. There was perhaps some corruption. There was a mishandling of evidence. And there was definitely, after it was all discovered in black and white on a probable cause affidavit, there was definitely some covering their asses. There was, you know, the thin blue line thing, and I get it. They have each other's backs. But what's right is right and what's wrong is wrong. And, you know, to stand up there and give absolutely no credit to the warriors, the family of Karina McClurkin, who tirelessly stood on a corner by the courthouse holding a sign, "Justice for Karina." You know, dug on their hands and knees with their bare hands to look for her. And then to say that they hindered the investigation? How? They had everything they needed less than a year into the investigation to put that man behind bars, and they didn't. So my faith in law enforcement with the Delphi case is dwindling as well. And I sorry if that offends anyone, but at a certain point, you can't ask for the public's help and not give the public any information to help you with. Like, you just can't do it.
And let's not even talk about Flora in this. Maybe we should. But now, even still, with all those three cases you just mentioned, and you also mentioned the Bradley Allen case, I mean, we still know more about Flora, McClurkin, and Delphi than we do about Bradley Allen. So, I mean, is it corruption or is it, I mean, I don't even know, because we know more about those three, and we're calling them corrupt and don't even know about this other one, this Bradley Allen case. But so maybe you folks up there in Indiana hold people accountable, hold law enforcement accountable more. I don't know. I mean, you folks are talking about them down here. No one is holding law enforcement accountable for Bradley Allen or Chris Hooks. No one is saying, hey, perhaps there are some bungling going on. But you guys are talking about it, so at least I'm honored to even say that you guys are even doing that up there. Right? Not doing like we're doing. We're just fucking brushing it up under the table here.
Well, I mean, we're talking about it, but you can talk about shit all day, and you still don't have anything, you know? So I think that maybe Bradley Allen's maybe they know who did it, but they need a witness, and maybe that witness isn't going to come forward. Or, you know, you and I have talked, and you told me some things, and as a result, I do believe that they have a pretty good idea of who murdered Bradley Allen. I mean, if he was murdered, which, let's face it, 5 years in, we're losing hope, you know, and I don't mean to sound insensitive, but what's next, you know? I would love to see law enforcement held accountable in that case too, and to see someone brought to justice, because that is a very personal, the way that I feel like they just swept it under the rug because of his substance abuse issues and that element of it. That's my personal, that's my pet peeve. Like, I hate that. I hate that people treat people like they're less because they have an addiction issue that millions and millions of other Americans have, you know?
Well, that and with Libby as well, I was seeing people attacking her and saying, well, you know, she was pregnant. Of course, you know, I've got kids out of high school, and I've seen kids along the way that age they got pregnant. Shit happens sometimes. But, like, you know, there's this weird way of attacking people, victims, whenever we shouldn't be attacking the victims. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, victim blaming. I was just agreeing. Yeah, and they always want to know, well, what were they on? Were they on social media? You know, why were they talking to older boys? Or they allegedly sent nude photos? Who cares? That has absolutely nothing to do with how a case should be investigated and prosecuted.
For sure. Like you said, victim blaming. And of course, they're talking about stuff that everybody does. I mean, most people, you know, people that are lonely, even Kagan was talking about it. Why did you do what you did? Well, I guess I was lonely. And why did you know, these young girls go on social media to meet people? Because everybody fucking does. You know, people that are lonely out there, they go and they search about things, and you know, they just to fit in, to be a part of something, to feel not really obligated, but to feel connected to something. And like McClurkin, I don't know her exact story, but like I think maybe she was at a park or whatever the case was, and like, you know, went there to be social, to be around other people, and there are these people out there that are, you know, for lack of better words, they're evil. They take advantage of scenarios. Maybe Bridge Guy, maybe, you know, Flint. I guess Flint, as in like Flint, Michigan. Is that guy's name? His first name you're talking about?
Yes.
So there are these predators out there. They take advantage of people, you know, and maybe even a Brad Loudon and Chris Hooks. You know, they took advantage of their soft spot. They were an addict. They were looking for love. They were whatever, and somebody came up and said, you know what, I'm gonna take advantage of this, and I'm gonna get my rocks off with them, with them, associated with them. And, you know, I mean, so like, yeah, the victim blaming is bullshit. People blaming Abby and Libby for wanting love, you know, trying to fit in at 16 years old or whatever, or the young lady over there, or, you know, and I just, you know, I think that they're a reflection of society. You know, they're who we all are, you know. But anyway, so let's bounce this back to a little bit. Just go back to Delphi just for a second, because I think this is, you know, Donald and I have been talking about this. We talked about, we have a theory, our theory that we wound up with the other day was that Bridge Guy was born in 1980, because of the fact that we just traced down whatever rabbit hole we chased down. Just where you're at now, what do you think about Bridge Guy? You know, what would you say right now if you had to put a few descriptors to Bridge Guy? What would it be? I mean, where you're at now? I don't give a fuck where you're at last month or next month or whatever, but where you're at now, where you at with
How
Bridge Guy?
specific do you want me to be? And do you want the person to know they're called out?
That's you.
Yeah, well, how does
tell us what you think.
So recently somebody came on the scene with another creator who's family to the alleged murderer of Karina McClurkin. And somehow this show went from trying to honor Karina to becoming a literal platform for the family of the alleged murderer to talk about their criminal activities in the quote past, and to really just grow a huge channel. And I read a comment in one of these videos where this gentleman, this nephew of the alleged murderer, they were talking to him, asking him questions, and someone in the comments said, you know, to the creator, you never stop talking long enough to realize that while you're trying to convince the bridge guy that your POI is the bridge guy, you don't even realize you're talking to the bridge guy. And I'm like, whoa. I don't know if that was actual literal, they were accusing this person of being the bridge guy, or if they were just saying that as a generalized term, like, you talk too much, shut up. But I got to looking at this guy, and I don't know, it's kind of suspicious. I mean, they have the ties to the Gabe Ellis, to the Kokomo crew, to Garrett Kurtz, who has the ties to the Logan property. You know, this person seems to know a lot. Details of everything going on in, you know, the United States for that time period, but just conveniently has no idea what Delphi murders were. Like, how do you live 30 miles away and you don't know what they are? Like, you know, come on now. I don't know. I'm looking at that, definitely. I don't know if I should have put all that, but.
Well,
I think that. Go ahead.
Well, you mentioned the Kokomo crew before, and you had to get a lot of feedback on one of our last shows. It's like, you know, there is, you know, and we don't want to victim blame again, you know, like with people that are addicts. But sometimes people make mistakes like that. But But now I don't want to stop you from your thought. I mean, I know that this is a Kokomo Crew has been kind of a running theme, and this is the possibility that that's associated with being bridge guy. But I don't want to slow you down from where you were going. You keep on going with where you're going. I think you provide some insight into it.
I mean, early on, it was thrown out there that there was a possible retaliation, like that the killings were a possible retaliation for the fact that Derek German allegedly was a turned state witness and informed on a bunch of people, and as a result got a lesser sentence for some pretty serious charges. I mean, I'm not going to go through the whole my case docket, but I would encourage anybody who isn't, versed on all that, just go to mycase.in.gov and you can just plug in any one thing and make your own conclusions. But if that's the case, the people that Mr. German allegedly informed on were part of this, quote, Kokomo Crew. And, of course, many people have speculated that is what the killings were, that they were retaliation for this. And this gentleman, when they asked him, would, I guess, I'm not sure how they put it, but would retaliation for someone, quote, snitching, could it include murdering their family, their children? And he was like, without hesitation, absolutely. And I just think that if, you're going to have someone on your show who's the supposed, insider person with information, and he tells you something, you better fucking listen to him. Otherwise, why have him on there? And he's saying, absolutely, yes, it could have been retaliation. I don't know.
Well,
it's aggravating. It really is aggravating to see someone getting famous because their relative is an alleged child murderer.
Well, I mean, he's, you mentioned that name, and he's complicit in this case that fucking day. I mean, there's all kinds of tie-ins there of who dropped him off and when, if they did, and who was supposed to pick him up when and if they did. So I get what you're saying, and of course we've talked about this before, and everybody gets pissed off about it, but nobody knows the answer to this question. Nobody knows who did this. Apparently, fucking law enforcement doesn't know because it's 5 years into it. There's video, there's audio, there is sketches, there's 50 other fucking people in the park that day. It's a small town. I mean, it's bullshit. Somebody should know. I get pissed off whenever I start hearing about all this because I'm like going, what the fuck? Why does with Bradley Island, there's no video, there's no audio. We don't even know what fucking day he went missing, and maybe we don't know what day these girls went missing. Who knows? But because everybody's like, we go back to another podcaster's like, well, we got to establish when the timeline was, and we established the timeline 3 years after we even had the case thrown to us. So, yeah, it's fucking crazy. Every time I think about this thing, I fall all kinds of rabbit holes down with it. I want resolution to it. As a yacker, I like talking about it, but Jesus, I'd really like to see it solved.
Well, if you look at Occam's razor, which is the simplest explanation is probably the explanation. I would change that to say the second simplest explanation might be the explanation, which is the retaliation theory. That was something that you go to Carter's press conference when he goes the New Direction, April 2019. He says, we were on to something early on. We went a different direction, but now we're looking back where we were in the beginning, which is when they released the second sketch that they said they had before they had the first one. And maybe the retaliation thing is something they looked at early on. Maybe they're not in a hurry to make this arrest because maybe their prime suspects already in prison on sexual misconduct with a minor and drug charges, Gabe Ellis, you know. I know his name's come up a lot. He matches the physical description. But so do 50 other people. And, man, I just don't know.
Including Tony Klein. I mean, that picture, I mean, I played with that. And with females. I mean, that sketch is anomalous. It's like, that most recent 2019 sketch is bullshit to me. I mean, it's like it matches everybody. I mean, it matches Kelsey. It matches Tony. I mean, I've seen all kinds of people line them up side by side like law enforcement told us not to do. But, you know, regardless, that shit matches up. That's a generic white person. That's like has every characteristic of every white person ever. You know. So to me, in fact, whenever I get this deep into it, I just go, it's just bullshit. They have no fucking clue who did this. They'll never know. This case will never be solved. And I get pissed off and I get mad at everything ever because there's no fucking resolution to it. You know, I just, it can go so many different directions, Lauren. So many different directions. I don't know.
Yeah. I feel like I've kind of been all over the place because I haven't talked, you know, I haven't talked to you for a month, and I haven't even really been paying attention to Delphi at all. And, you know, now that I'm talking about it again, I'm thinking about a lot of stuff, but it's kind of hard to stay on task because the Karina McClurkin thing has just really got my head. I'm thrilled to death that they found someone or that they arrested someone, but also at the same time, it just seems like too simple. It seems like they just needed to do it. They were under pressure. And if they really thought it was him, the Flint farmer, why didn't they arrest him 6 months after her disappearance? You know?
Well,
I don't know.
Same thing with
things
the
don't
Kleins.
add up.
Same thing with the Kleins. If they are serious, the people with Murder Sheet, they are talking about the fact that they have inside sources that say Tony Klein, Kegan Klein involved, all this bullshit. So, and they invaded their house, what, 2-3 days after this, whatever?
It was like 2 weeks.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, yeah, that's right. It was a little bit longer than 2 or 3 days, like the 20th or whatever the hell it was, in February. But it was in the same month. And then they just dropped that off course, and this guy didn't get arrested for a couple of years, Kegan, whatever the fuck his name is. I like to call him every name, you know. I don't fucking care. But so I don't even know if he's involved. But then again, you know, hell, maybe he is. Maybe it's Tony, because Tony, I've seen a lot of pictures of this guy, man, his dad, Kegan's dad, that looks just like this fucking guy. You know, that little haircut, they just put hair on the sides, and I don't know. I wish they would get an arrest in this, like Flint, whoever the hell it is. I want them to do it. Anyway, it's been cool. Finish it off for us tonight.
I mean, I'm just surprised that Kegan, they've put so much pressure on him, and you can see in his interview with Barbara McDonald, he was getting his ass whipped in that jail. I mean, his face was all bruised up, because, you know, law enforcement can't go in there and beat the truth out of him, but they can sure do a press release and make sure every other inmate sees it that connects this person to the most notorious, well-known double homicide of 2 children, which, let me tell you, in men's prison, it is not going to be favorable for him. So I definitely think that release where they came out with the Anthony shots and they linked him to it, the police confirmed it, ISP. I think they did that because they knew that he was going to get a taste of what it was going to be like for him for the rest of his life in prison if he doesn't tell what he knows. And you'll notice he started saying, well, it could have been my dad. where he denied it before. So,
yeah. Look, somebody beat his ass quite a few times, and his face was all bruised up, man. It wasn't a good life for him, I can assure you. I hope he enjoyed those little pictures, because his life ain't good no more, huh?
I don't know. I just, for some reason, and I'm definitely not saying I have sympathy for him or I believe he's innocent in any way, but there's a picture of him where he must be sitting across from his dad in a restaurant, and he's got like a black and white t-shirt on and a hat, and he just looks like a child. And he looks like he's terrified. He looks like he's terrified. Like his dad probably. Hey,
if you listen to the murder sheet, folks, they'll tell you that his dad is a humdinger. His dad is an abusive motherfucker. He's probably abused Kagan. He's probably. I mean, there's some humanity there. I mean, we can't take that away from him. Like, if anytime there's a relationship like that where, if you're the person you're trying to impress and be like is a perverted fuck and a mean fuck, and you're not really at heart like that, but you try to be that just to impress whomever you're trying to impress there, yeah, that's a fucked up situation, man. That's a bad life for him. That was a very unfortunate situation for him.
And what if Tony's not what if he doesn't do it for the actual personal sexual gratification? But what if he's more of like a broker and he's in it for the money? Because he seems to really like to show off expensive things rather than, scantily clad women on his Facebook profile anyway. So, if this is Tony's hustle or that's how he's making this extra money, he's probably telling his son, hey, you have to participate in this because you're living with me. This is your way of contributing. You can't get a job. No one's going to hire you. You're a piece of shit, whatever. And you grow up like that. It's normal to you, I think. So it might be that he didn't realize necessarily the gravity of the things that he was doing until these murders. Because remember he said in Vegas, he's like, I knew I should have left in the middle of the night. I'm so fucked, or something along those lines. I mean, why did he have to wait until his dad was asleep? Right. Why did he have to feel like he had to wait till his dad was asleep and sneak out? I mean, you're a 20-some-year-old adult. If you need to leave, just leave, unless you're scared.
Well, if you got nowhere to go, I mean, where the fuck you gonna go? I mean, if this dude is your source of income, if he's where you live, he pays your bills. The devil pays your bills. I mean, what the fuck you gonna do? Right? No. I
mean, I want to repeat again, like, I in no way, shape, or form feel that he's innocent and should get out of the punishment and consequences for his crime. He's an adult. He makes a decision. But that being said, you don't have to necessarily make an excuse for something, but you can give a reason. So his father being a sadistic piece of shit and abusing him and manipulating him is not an excuse for his crime, but it is a reason. It could be a reason.
It should be taken into account. It should be taken into account. That's for sure. If he steps up. But now, there's been other things going where, look here. God, I enjoy talking about this with you because you're even though you said you hadn't looked at it in a month, you've looked at it so much. It's so entertaining to speak with you on this matter. But I've enjoyed this talk, Lauren. Thank you so much for your time tonight. I want to jump off, but man, we want everybody to tell us where we're at with this. We've kind of jumped around with it as we always do. So. But there's no answer yet. We're just speculating. If you get pissed off about it, you can suck both of our balls. I'm going to let you finish it out. Tell them good night.
All right. Have a good night.
Good night.